What?
Where are you?
Where am I? Well, I'll tell you. It's probably Orlando somewhere.
Why are you in Orlando?
What?
Why are you in Orlando?
Why am I here? I haven't the least idea.
Okay. What was your favorite thing that happened today?
Big surprise, I woke up.
Okay. Where did you go today?
Oh, Disney World, I guess they call it. We didn't do much. I sat around mostly with the others. I never did see the ride pavilion, but no loss. I saw. Have you ever been there?
We were at Legoland today.
Yeah. Well, those houses, you know, the cities,
Yeah.
they amazed us, entranced, and I loved them. It was worth I would go that distance just to see him again.
Was that your favorite thing that happened today? What was your favorite thing that happened today?
That's what I'm trying to say. Well, it's the only thing I'll remember, so it's that.
You liked all the buildings built out of bricks?
I was very impressed. I mean, it really, I looked at it and I was just pleased, you know, from being able to look. Got one. Got a good one, I think. My squad. You better come over and sit down so you can hear me.
All right.
My squad came off the line and I remember we had a good time.
I'm going to be over there.
Yeah. And they put us in a barn, which was great. Had hay, place to sleep, no rain, no snow. We're in seventh heaven. This is 10 guys. We had the dumbest, meanest corporal in this. He was the gunner, and he was the best gunner I ever knew. But he was, I did not like him at all. He was from Midland, Texas, oil worker there.
That is where your great-granddaughter was born.
So, and his name was Fried Coffee. We had an immigrant boy who immigrated to the U.S. from Yugoslavia. He was here 1 month and got drafted. You could draft the immigrants. They could refuse. If they refused, they could never allow to become citizens. If they took the draft, about 6 months later, they'd find themselves handed citizenship papers, which was a good deal. So Andrzejowski was always getting picked on by this corporal. This corporal made life imminent. Now Andy did not speak any English when he came here. He learned English in the Army. Okay, we're getting to the point of the story. Andy did something, and he tried to explain what he did, and his corporal blew his lid. called him a dumb Polak. He wasn't a Polak. Every word. They should kick all the immigrants out or shoot them. Everything mean you could think of. Andy sat there. Our sympathies were all 100% with Andy. Well, we told him, don't listen to Clyde. And Andy says, I know. And he says, the war is coming to an end. I'll be rid of the guy. There was to that effect. Clyde heard that, never. He said, we're going to throw your butt out. You're not going to get back to the United States. We don't want stinking Polacks, the Yugoslav, he said, but stinking Polacks in the U.S. This went on. And Andy said, finally he said, Clyde, I am going to get back to the U.S., to California. He lives in Sacramento. I got uncles and aunts and cousins there. I'm going to get in. And he says, you'll never get back in. And he said, I think it's you that I'm not going to get back in. So Clyde says, I'm from Midland, a Texan. I'll get back in. And he said, what makes you think you'll get in and I won't? Which is where Andy sprang the trap. He said, I got papers. Took his hat off, unsighted the helmet. He had papers attesting to the fact that he had received his citizenship in the Army, that he was a citizen. And he said, Clyde, do you have any papers? So dumb Coffee says, I don't need them. I'm from Texas. And he says, it ain't gonna make any difference. If you don't have papers, you don't get in. And he says, is that right? And he got 9 guys saying, oh yeah, you gotta have papers to get back in. So Clyde is looking and he says, I got no papers. He asked me, you got papers? And I said, sure. He said, when'd you get them? I said, a couple of months ago. They certify I'm a citizen and allowed to come in. I had no such thing. I'm lying through my teeth. And he said, where are your papers? I said, I gave them to the company clerk and he put them in the company safe. 9 other guys tell Clyde, they all got papers. To get in, Clyde never had papers. So Andy he increases the tempo. He said, they're afraid. They told me to keep my papers safe because after the war, they're going to find traitors and shoot them. He said, if you have papers, you're all right. But if you don't have any papers, you could have been a spy for the Germans. Clyde is yelling, they never gave me any papers. I never was a spy. I was a machine gunner. Yeah, that's right. Our guys are having hysterics. That's the only word for it. They're laughing so hard and hiding it, you can't believe it. And so Clyde says to our squad leader, who's in on it with him, he says, George, have you got papers? Of course. He says, can you help me? George says, I'm afraid not. It's too late. He says, what? It's too late. You had to get him. He says, you're going to be investigated. You won't go home until you can find a way to prove you're an American. Well, Walter, Clyde nearly worried himself to death. He asked everybody in Sunday in the company, have you got papers? And of course, all the people got the word. And no matter who you asked, they'd say, have you got papers to get back into the U.S.? And they all would say, sure, Clyde. We got lots of papers. I thought he was going to have a nervous breakdown. I was hoping so. But there's a military story. If you're in the military there, you got papers. You get home, horsemen, or
They're called
nobody
orders.
ever saw such a thing or heard of it. Except the dumbbell from Texas. He didn't have papers. And when you got a company of guys all telling you they got papers in the company's safe so they can get back and eat home, and you don't have them, you can worry, right? Boy, did we have fun with that one. Guys had asked Clyde, have you people they never saw before, other companies? And they'd find out he was, and be tipped off. The paper story got around. And they'd ask him, Corporal, did you get your paper thing straightened out? Even some of the officers heard it. And my one lieutenant came up to Clyde and he said, Clyde, I investigated. We gotta get you papers. So I said, Clyde, give me your college diploma. Said, I don't think Clyde finished grade school. Clyde says, I didn't go to college. I went to school outside of Midland. You don't need college to work in the oil field. And so Ray told him, but you do. If you had a diploma from college, I could probably help you get papers. But right now, my connections can't do it. Be a citizen without going to high school. And Clyde says, well, I never went to high school. And George told him, that's the point. You had to go to high school.
Can I ask you a question?
That was so funny that 70 years later, I think it's funny.